everybody. I'm Deborah Pegues. Welcome to Winning with Deborah, where people turn to learn. Each week, we seek to gain from the experience and knowledge of believers who can help you triumph relationally, physically, emotionally, or financially. We want you to be informed and transformed as you learn how to apply the Word of God to every aspect of your life. Now, today we're going to talk about the importance of being resilient. Resilience is the ability to recover after an adversity. Some people never get beyond the scars of a bad experience. Rather than bouncing back, they get stuck in their story. But not today's guest. TeeJ Mercer will share her painful story of being a battered wife while maintaining a successful career as a TV editor. Not typical profile of your abused woman. The truth is that abuse, especially of women, can be found at every economic and social strata of our society, and even in the church. Now, according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime. And on a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. Many women suffer in silence, and our guest was one of them, until God gave her an escape plan. She has chronicled her experience in her gripping and inspiring book, The Six-Figured Battered Wife, My Path to Resilience. TeeJ has continued to excel in her career and is impacting lives around the world with her TV expertise, her humor, and her faith. TeeJ, welcome to Winning with Deborah.
I'm so excited. I'm playing with you. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Can I just have a moment and go?
Yes, have a moment.
I'm sitting here with the Deborah Pegues. Can we just have that moment?
I told my producer, I said, now I got to get you ready for TeeJ. I said, because she is full of life. This will not be boring.
They don't call me the walking exclamation point for no reason.
They call you the walking exclamation point.
Yes, they nicknamed me the walking exclamation point. I have no idea why.
Yeah, me either. I don't know how they got that impression. But what's so good about it, you know Jesus. Now,
I know and love me some Jesus, for sure, for sure. That's my dude. We've been rolling together for 45 years because, you know, he's taking care of me that time. But the truth of the matter is I'm a preacher's kid. My backstory
I didn't know that.
I'm a preacher's kid. The dad my biological father was killed when I was 8, but the dad who chose me is a pastor, and so church was a given. I grew up singing in the youth choir. When I went to Howard University, I was in the gospel choir. But my walk got real serious in my 30s. You know, that's when God starts speaking to me more and start showing me, because, you know, I did my thing in my teens and my 20s. Come on, I'm just going to keep it real. But when I hit somewhere a little after 30, stuff started changing. And I started hearing his voice clear, and he was speaking to me. And I'll never forget, I went to a church one night, and we were dismissing, you know how they tell you to grab your neighbor, you know. And I grabbed this woman's hand, wasn't even thinking anything about it, Miss Deborah. And when we finished, she turned to me, she was like, your hands are on fire.
Wow.
And they are hot. Whatever God is getting ready to birth in you, it is going to change the game. And I was like, I don't know you. I don't want no part of this. And for the rest of the time I was at that particular church, I dodged that woman. When I saw her coming, I went the other way.
But it came true.
But it came true. You know, God actually just shook up my life and made me very vocal and visible for him. You know, I was a TV editor for 20 years. I worked on some of the biggest shows on television. So I'm used to being in a 10 by 10 room.
Wow.
I was happy with that life. I'm used to being that way. I love creating television and you know, just going and leave me in my corner, sometimes in my pajamas. But God was like, no, I got something bigger for you. So I was always doing ministry in my edit bay. My edit bay was a type of place that I had to kick my producers out because I would be ministering or I would be loving on them. Oh, wow. And God just changed my whole life.
I love it. And you know, when you look up resilient in the dictionary, we have your picture there.
Make sure you get a good picture.
So we always like to get started with a scriptural basis for our discussion. So I want to read 2 Corinthians 4:8 and 9. Okay? It says, we are pressed on every side by troubles. We are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. In other words, we are resilient. What does that scripture mean to you?
Well, a lot of people don't know that while I was holding it down in Hollywood, I was being held down in my own home. It was a secret that, you know, my husband at the time had tried to kill me several times. And if there was any pressing, there was literal pressing, you know. At one point, you know, I was dragged through the house by my hair. I was yanked off of the toilet with pee still streaming down my legs. You know, it was crazy. I had a tape measure wrapped around my throat, and the only thing that saved me was it broke. So if we want to talk about pressing, I'm thinking that literally I have been really pressed on all sides. But it all came to a head in October of 2009 when he had me pinned up against the wall. And this time I could tell he had totally checked out. He had totally checked
mentally,
out.
he's crazy?
Yeah, he didn't realize. Like times before, I knew he would stop. But this time, he had totally checked out and I knew I was going to die. I really did. And so for me, my mom and I are like this. That's my girl. And so I just began to pray like, Lord, I promise you, you cannot let me die like this. You cannot, because my mother will never forgive herself because she talks to me and she would live with the guilt of I should have seen it. This is my baby. I should have known. She and I are close.
Yes.
And so, Ms. Deborah, I wasn't praying for me. It was praying, I mean, and that's what happens when you're in a situation like that, that it has eroded your self-esteem over so long that you don't even, you don't care about your life.
But TeeJ.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't see any red flags before you married this crazy man?
So, yes and no. And I have to answer it that way with, I had successified and educated my way into denial is how I describe it.
Okay.
Because I didn't know enough about domestic violence to recognize that these were the red flags.
Okay, so give us an example, because there's somebody out there who may be dating somebody, and we need to make sure they get these red flags down. Okay?
Yeah, and actually, I built it into my acronym. If you want to ask yourself, are you sleeping next to crazy? I got five letters that can get you there. Okay. C, is he crafty in making the irrational seem rational? Okay. Because they don't just wake up hitting you. It is a systematic approach over time. So he actually would sometimes convince me to teach, I hit you with my left fist. I didn't hit you with my right. And you think about, okay, yeah, he could have done more damage. And so you're sitting there going, okay, well, that makes sense, but fool, you shouldn't be hitting me in the first, but you're not really thinking of that.
Okay.
R is, does he refuse to accept responsibility for his actions? It's always your fault. Catch this, because I know God is always positioned. I know someone is listening to this, and so when I'm speaking, catch these. Is he refusing to accept responsibility that if you had said it right, if you had done the right thing, he wouldn't have gone off on you?
So it's always your fault.
It's always your fault.
Got it.
A, does he assume the responsibility of sole decision maker? I came home one time, Ms. Deborah, I had beautiful palm trees all around my pool. I came home one time and I saw these huge cranes lifting out my beautiful palm trees. I knew nothing.
What?
He's made the decision. So you have no.
Well, let me interrupt. And it wasn't your. It was his. It was your house.
It was my. I bought that house for my 25th birthday. Okay. So it was my house, and it would have been fine, but we didn't discuss it. But when it came down for me to want to buy a $50 gift card for my niece, oh, we need to have a discussion about you spending $50, but you can just take all these.
Okay.
And then Z, does he zero in on your faults and your flaws? He would actually pick on me about stuff that I did as a teenager.
He knew you then?
No, that's what's crazy. The acronym is, are you sleeping next to crazy? Okay. That's what's crazy about this.
So we're giving the acronym for crazy.
Yes.
Got it.
So how does he actually get to try to make me shamed and guilty for stuff I did as a teenager? And then why is, does he yank at the mental, physical, and spiritual stability of your life? So imagine, you're on a wood floor and you're on a rug. You played that as a kid, like, and you sliding. That's what it feels like. Wow. Because you can't get comfortable in the compliments, because outwardly, most abusers are very charismatic, very complimentary. So the whole world thought he was crazy about some TeeJ.
Now, listen, I grew up in that kind of environment, and people couldn't believe my dad was the way he was.
Yes, behind closed doors.
He was so sweet. Yes. Everybody loved him.
Yes, because they thought that, he just loved his wife. And so when I'm standing beside him at a party and he's just singing my praises, I can't get comfortable in that, because I know the minute we sit down in the car, well, why didn't you say this? Or you should have said this, or a real woman should have. So those are the 5 elements you need to ask yourself, are you sleeping next to crazy?
And what about women who just rationalize them away? Because I know somebody who's in an abusive relationship, but, you know, I know somebody.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. But they said, like, he's so nice. You know, he makes up for it. He buys me this.
What happens is, it's the successifying, like I made up a word, and educating your way into denial.
Okay.
Because you're also, Ms. Deborah, holding on to who they used to be. That's why you stay, because they don't wake up hitting you.
Okay.
So they're nice, they're charismatic, they're open. And so you're hoping that can come back. And especially in a marriage, Christian women, we get married for the long haul. So we're in it to death do us part, right?
Literally.
So exactly. Yeah. Well, almost exactly. Yeah. So I'm not a quitter. And for me, especially Six-Figure Battered Wife, was to speak to the women who are overcoming achievers. You know, like we are just overachievers.
Well, see, that's what's mind-boggling. Why would somebody, see, my mom had no education or anything, which is why I turned out to be the way I am. Like, don't talk to me until I get all my education and degrees in place. Then you might talk to me.
Right.
Then, you know, God cleaned up my attitude later. But why would you, a woman who's so successful, tolerate that kind of abuse?
I love that question. I love that question, and that is why I'm here. It's because we don't quit. Failure is not an option.
Oh my goodness.
There is no way I'm going to be successful in Hollywood, be in demand in Hollywood, and I'm going to fail at my marriage. I will not let God down. So I am going to figure this out. And that's what they count on. Does it make sense now? Because I get that question. And a lot of times, especially that remember when the Janae Rice and Ray Rice came out, the football player, and she went ahead and married him.
Yeah, the one he knocked out in the elevator and dragged her out.
Right, and so everybody started calling her gold digger. So I did several interviews trying to explain to people, she's not a gold digger. She's holding on to the Ray that she knew. She's thinking that she can fix this because she was a beast in her own lane. Like, girlfriend had her own life going on.
Okay.
So she's successful, and she's thinking, this is a man that I've loved. I can figure out how to communicate with them, until somebody comes through and breaks the spell, and it's like, baby, it's not you. You'll never be good enough. You'll never be cute enough. You'll never be smart enough, because the goal, the line, he's going to keep changing the rules, and you won't even know it.
Now, even though then you're a high achiever, but you don't, you're so ashamed of it. You don't let nobody in on it. Why don't you just tell somebody? Just even because we like to whine to each other, but abusers they suffer in silence. Why is that?
Because we're trying to, for people like me, like you said it, domestic violence only happens to people who are not educated, who can't take care of themselves. So I didn't even have a word for it. This couldn't be what was happening. I still remember sitting in my edit bay. I had decided, I had gotten to the point, Ms. Deborah, that I would stay at work late to let him go to bed, and then I would pretend to be asleep when he left, just to keep the peace. And so one night I was at work late, and something told me to Google domestic violence. And I was like, this is a waste of time, because I'm not a victim, because I don't have battered, I don't have black eyes or anything like that. And I'm telling you, when I looked at the criteria, like you said it in your intro, I think it's the National Coalition of they have a criteria of like 7 questions.
Okay.
And I answered every single one of those questions except one about him holding the children. We had lost our daughter. So he couldn't use the children against me, but every single one of them, it was like the wind just knocked out of me. And I had to sit there and process, I'm abused.
Okay.
Something that I had no frame of reference. I wasn't raised like that. I never saw that. I came out of a loving household.
And I think when you come out of an abusive household, you recognize it right away.
Right.
I was dating this guy once, and I was sitting on his lap, and he stood up and dropped me to the floor.
On purpose.
On purpose.
And then pretend like, oh, you did it. Oh, I was just playing.
But you see, I had my things up already. It's
Yeah.
Like at the first
you
sign,
recognized it.
It was like, oh no, I never talked to him again.
Right.
Ever.
See,
it's like, don't come in my presence ever again in this life.
And that was for me, it's like, this is foreign to me. I'm not used to somebody not rooting for me or wanting me to be the best. That was totally foreign. So to your point, we don't recognize it. So that's why we say we're trying to figure it out, because we're smart.
That's why you're so passionate about this now. And I have a clip of you talking to a group of ladies. And let's take a look.
Okay, absolutely. I am a thriver. I am so far past my abusive relationship that I am thriving in my life, and life is so freaking yummy. A lot of people know me as the walking exclamation point because my energy is all over the place, and they are often surprised that I almost lost my life at the hands of my ex-husband several times. In fact, a woman is 70 times more likely, that is a 70 by the way, 70 times more likely to lose her life at the hands of her abuser a few weeks after she leaves. So for those of us who made it out, we actually walk around thinking, I'm thankful I left. And so I wanted to start a movement. I wanted to start a movement in the month of November, a time where we are giving thanks. And I wanted every survivor, every thriver to stand up and let the world know that they made it out. Because here's the thing, someone slaps you, you know it's violence. Someone hits you, violence. Punches you, violence. But the more insidious killer that almost always precedes the violence is the verbal and emotional abuse. No one knew that I was being called a B in my home almost on a regular basis. And the more women that I talk to, a lot of them don't understand that they are being abused and it's going to escalate to violence. And so I wanted more and more and more survivors to stand up so that we could be a beacon. And I need your help.
Wow, TeeJ, you were pretty passionate about that.
I'm very passionate about this because I know a woman is 70 times, 70, Ms. Deborah.
Wow.
The stats say 70 times more likely to be killed after she leaves.
Yes.
So it is my job, my calling, to get them at the verbal abuse state. If I can prevent it, if I can get them to wake up, if I can get them to find themselves in my story, in my journey, and I can wake them up sooner, they may not have to go through the physical.
Because you're saying the verbal abuse is just the prelude.
The verbal abuse is the prelude. It starts out with constructive criticism that you're thinking is constructive criticism because this is your husband. This is the man who wants you to be better. Then when that doesn't work, or you start kind of battling back with that, then it escalates to just being outright mean and calling you out your name. So I went from honey to bitch, you know.
And that affected your self-esteem and I mean, how can you let you knew what you brought to the table, but his words had such impact until they were like shrapnel in your brain.
Right.
And they affected your self-esteem as well.
Absolutely. Because it is not overnight. It's systemic. It's happening over time, and it's escalations. The constructive criticism that gets a little meaner. Then I'm gonna call you out your name. Oh, I didn't mean it.
Then it becomes from constructive to destructive.
To destructive, and then it's okay. That's not. She's kind of fighting back from that. So I'm gonna start restraining her and making her listen to me. Then that turns into okay. She didn't push past me, and so now we're just gonna be all out fighting.
Okay.
And then when that doesn't work, I'm walking you through the escalation. So please, if you are experiencing this, hear me. It is going to escalate to the physical. Then when you start battling back, if you still have life, then they're going to start threatening your family.
Ooh.
And that's what would keep me there.
But you had a support system, because I want to get you out of this situation now.
Okay.
So you had you had a support system.
Once they found out.
Tell us about your great escape and how did you plan it?
The Great Escape was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was good.
Tell us about the Great Escape.
So I have a cousin. Her name is Sonia, but I call her cousin. And we come from a group of 26 grandkids. So we were raised to be there for each other. So she lived around the corner. Remember, no one knew this was happening. So my ex-husband and I had gotten into this big fight, and I knew I gotta leave because he's gonna kill me now because I had moved some money that he thought, and I knew messing with his money, it was a whole different. So I called my cousin and I was like, listen, I don't have time to explain. I need you to wear comfortable clothes. I need you to meet me at the house at 10 o'clock and we'll take it from there. So fortunately, another one of my cousins was in town and he showed up. And so it really became like this mission impossible, like to the point when I'm in crisis, I make jokes. That's how I deal with it.
Yeah.
So I started humming the Mission Impossible thing. I'm not gonna hum it now because then you have to get clearance.
Oh.
But I'm humming the Mission Impossible theme, and they're like, "Are you kidding?" And so I'm like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna stand guard at the door to make sure he doesn't come home. Cousin and I are gonna be in the bedroom disassembling my bed because I really wanted my bed. That's a long story, but I really want
time to take a bed.
Yes, because it was a what you call the air mattress.
Oh, air mattress.
Not an air mattress, but one of those good beds. I spent a lot of money for it, so I wasn't leaving that.
I just want to get away. Don't you just want to get away?
Yeah, but at the point, I had gotten to the point, like, I worked for everything in this house. If I have to start over, I'm not starting from scratch.
Okay, you got
So it don't have to make no sense. Sometimes when you in stuff, y'all, it don't make no sense, but I was determined to get my bed. So I posted my cousin at the front door and told my other cousin, help me, we're gonna disassemble this bed. And we were like moving. And then I told my cousin, okay, here's boxes, just get everything you can right now. We got 15 minutes, we gotta be in and we out.
So you guys got it out. You got it
We
out.
were out, I got my bed.
All right.
I got everything in my bed.
And you chronicle all this in this book, which I think is just awesome.
Yes.
But this is the part I like. This is the front, and then you just like flip the script.
You have to flip your
So
story.
the front talks about the 6-figure battered woman, blah, blah, blah. And then this side says 10 steps to resilience.
Right.
And you have resilience has 10 letters.
Right.
And I want you to just cover a couple of them because you're saying these are the steps to becoming a resilient person. So why don't you just cover about 3 of them for me?
Yeah. So I really love that second part of the book because it wasn't just my story. It was, I got 10 other women to take a letter and tell their story because I didn't want it to all be about me, and I wanted different women to find themselves in different scenarios of the book. So R is reconnect to your old self. Before my ex-husband, you can tell I'm full of energy, but that light, I know, go figure, that light had just diminished, and I didn't realize how bad until I started coming back, and people were like, TeeJ, you're glowing. So what happened in my journey, I decided early on that after the divorce, after I get out of that I wanted to come out of that not bitter, forgiving, and I wanted to be my old self. Okay. So I had to do the work to reconnect to my old self.
Good.
E is embrace God's definition of you. Your abuser will call you all kinds of things because he's trying to describe you. You have to go to how God defines you, and there's a difference. And then S, survive the moment. Yeah. Sometimes he would just go on such a tirade that I knew, I got a mouth. Yeah. I knew I just got to survive this moment because he's going to get tired.
And we're going to let them get the rest of them from your book because I want them to get the book. Because let me tell you, normally I don't read an entire book. I read every page and actually stayed up to 3 in the morning when I don't think they heard it.
Can you say that again? Wait, can you tell them that?
It is a page turner. It's a page turner. And you kind of, we root for you and then we cry with you and then we laugh at you because you just, getting that bed made no sense to me. Because when my mom made
no sense.
Yeah, my mom made her great escape from Texas to California.
Okay.
And she didn't have any luggage. So she brought her, I remember they had the paper bags. They would ask you paper or plastic. Well, she brought her clothes here in a paper bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it was something about it, that bed meant the world to me. So.
Well, let me ask you this. So you have, what kind of advice would you give a woman who's contemplating getting out of there? Because I know everybody needs a support system. I know you have to have a strategy a little bit, and I know there are shelters and things. But what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's contemplating the move and just saying, like my mom, I don't have the money.
Right.
What do you do?
Be strategic with it, especially if you have children. Be strategic with it. And actually, one of the stories in the resilience part of the book, it talks about a woman her specialty is helping women with strategy. She escaped domestic violence from the Middle East. And so make sure you get somewhere safe. But I think the main thing is you have to remember it's not you. I can't stress that enough. It's not you. You will not be able to figure this out because as soon as you think you figured it out, he's going to change the rules. He's going to change the rules.
Now, TeeJ, tell us what you're doing now, because you don't do TV editing anymore.
I don't do. No, God pulled me out of that in 2015. I now teach authors, experts, coaches, and entrepreneurs how to book themselves in the media without a publicist and without being a celebrity. And let me tell you something. I talk to my clients all the time. I don't separate my ministry from my media. So when you get media side of TeeJ, you're going to get ministry side of TeeJ. When you get ministry side of TeeJ, we're going to somehow talk about my clients. And so it is my job, it is my calling to love on God's kids. And so through Media Mavericks Academy,
Media Mavericks Academy,
I get to teach people how to find their voice and make some noise and blow up in the media with their business, their book, or their brand.
And you're not just like low level exposure. You have book people on major shows.
Oh yeah, I don't play. Now listen, I suck at a lot of things, Miss Deborah, but media ain't one. And so my clients kill the game on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Steve Harvey, Good Morning America. One of them just did a feature for TNT, the network. The doctors, Dr. Oz. So
yeah, and your training is awesome because I sneak in on it every now and then. But I'm going to become a client soon, but I'm just haven't had the opportunity. All right. So all right. So you told us what you do now.
Yeah.
What do you really want people to take away from this book, TeeJ?
That reminds me. I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
Because I brought you a present.
Okay, let me look.
So
I don't fix crazy.
I don't fix crazy is what I had to actually tell myself when the spell was broken. And remember, earlier I gave you the crazy acronym, but I have to tell myself a lot of times, I don't fix crazy. No matter what I do, I can't fix this. I don't fix crazy. And so that is my gift to you. And actually, maybe I should give you another one so you can pass to your friend that you said.
Yes. Now, what do you mean when you say you don't fix crazy? Because I think I know what you mean, because we're always trying to fix it and we're hopeful.
Right. It simply means don't get caught up in the vicious cycle of their mental issues. You can't fix it. It's not going to make sense. Remember, the first C of crazy is he crafty in making the irrational seem rational. While you're trying to figure out this rational, you know you're logical. You're going to drive yourself crazy when you keep trying to figure that out.
I love it. Well, TeeJ, it's been great having you here.
Thanks for
I knew it would be. I knew this time would just fly.
Yeah.
But you are such an inspiration, and I think that no matter what, probably even in the midst of the abuse, you probably still had a level of joy.
I did. My joy is never negotiable.
Yeah.
It's never on the table.
I love that.
No.
I'm kind of like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to appreciate that about you. And then I know several people that I've referred to you, and they are thoroughly pleased with how you coach them and nurture them. So listen, I want to wish you the best in all that you do, and I can't wait to become your client.
Yes!
All right. Thank you so much for joining this empowering program on resilience. Don't forget to pick up TeeJ's book, The Six-Figured Battered Wife, where she walks readers through 10 steps to being resilient and how being so helped her to go from victim to survivor and then from survivor to thriver. Yes, you can bounce back from adversity. The enemy may knock you down, but he can't knock you out. Every battle we face is the Lord's. What a powerful truth to know that we are more than conquerors through Christ. So stop dreading adversity. Troubles are inevitable, but we must remember Psalms 34:19. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all of them. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If this program has blessed or impacted you in any way, I would love to hear your comments. Please visit me on Facebook at Winning with Deborah or on my website, winningwithdeborah.com. Thank you so much again. And there in my website, you may read some excerpts from my book, Choose Your Attitude, Change Your Life. And you'll also find some other empowering publications and products that are sure to strengthen you in your Christian walk. So until next time, have a winning week.